Welcome back to another episode of Lost in the Farmer's Market Garden Shorts. Now this is the fourth of a special set of episodes for December, so that I'm not leaving you out in the cold. Now, I know what you're thinking. Whoa, what the heck is that thing? Well, this is actually a very interesting specimen. It's been with me for about 2 years, roughly, maybe 3. And it's quite interesting, I would say. Its common name is Candelabra Cactus, but much like the other three plants in this mini-series, it's a Euphorbia. Euphorbia lactea. Lactea means milk, and that refers to the milky sap that this thing puts out once it's injured. Now, it doesn't have any real synonyms. I mean, I've heard it called milk bush and a few other things, but, I mean, it really doesn't. No, it doesn't have any scientific name synonyms that I know of. It is from tropical Asia and India, which makes it interesting because that means there's euphorbias all over the world, adapted to different climates. And you thought the daisies got around. Oh, yeah. Now, in our climate, it's hardy in zones 10 through 11, but it does not tolerate frost. It can be easily injured, and in fact, I'm going to zoom in a little bit here for you. See that scar there? That's probably where frost happened, it damaged the tip, and a new tip grew out. Now what's interesting is these plants are 3-ribbed. They have 3 ribs, and then it's sort of bent inward, and it's basically a triangular shape. A similar plant in the family is actually called trigonum, or trigona I believe it is, which is what it is, I guess. Now you can see on the stem tip there that, and I'm going to zoom in just a little bit, it has little tiny leaves. It does have spines, but they're not really threatening to a person. I think they're more to keep things from grazing on it. This is a tall, narrow plant that's growing in that pot. It's probably due for a very delicate repot soon, but I haven't gotten around to it. But anyway, it loves sharply drained soils, but it has one little flaw. It doesn't have a really good root system, so to speak. And so it's prone to flopping. It will need support. I'm going to zoom down. You see that little stick in there? Little bamboo stick? That's what that's there for. Now, I have this plant, ironically, as a surplus item. It's a plant that simply did not sell during a prior endeavor, and it was the last one left, and I said, well, you're scarred, you look a little weird, I'm going to keep you and see what happens. And lo and behold, this plant has amazed me with exceptional growth, nice side branching. In fact, the side branches are substantial enough right now that I could probably clone this. Now, back to the sharply drained soils. I do not know what soil pH it prefers because there isn't much info there. But sharply drained soils implies something like cactus soil. So if you don't have that, you get potting soil, and you dope it with about 50% sand, 40 to 50% sand, and really sand it up hardcore. You can stick in some small gravel for weight and drainage, additional drainage, but not really necessary. Now, as for exposure, it prefers full to partial sun. Mine is exposed under growing lights, and thus it gets full sun, but it's not hot sun. So this one hasn't actually been out in the sun yet. Hopefully next summer I'll stick it out on the porch and see what happens. In its native environment, it can get up to 16 feet tall with a spread of about 5 to 10 feet, but in cultivation, they end up more like what you see. It's kind of a weird, loose, airy, armed cactus. It's like having a Sangaro, but minus the curves. It's like a fractal Sangaro. Oh my. Yeah, that's right. All those right angles, just right angling everywhere. Even numbers? We got none of that. Now it has some nicknames, of course. Mottled spurge, which, not seeing it, but there are varieties with variegation in between the ribs that give it shades of green and white. So that's where that comes from. Frilled fan. Now that's a tricky one. I'm going to have to explain that. But let me get through these first. Elkhorn. Okay, I can see that. Dragon bones. Oh, the kids are gonna love that. And hat rat cactus. Yeah, I can definitely see that. Oh, yeah. Now, back to frilled fan. This requires a longer explanation. Frilled fan is a mutation of this plant that they typically graft onto another cactus, and it's what's called a monstrose form plant, a succulent. This is a succulent, mind you, not a cactus. And it's a monstrose form. Monstrose forms are cacti or succulents that, for reasons unknown, have a strange mutation where instead of having a central growing tip on a stem, the growing tip is mutated. It's either by damage or chemical exposure or lightning strike or who knows, really. And what happens is, instead of expanding in one growing tip, it produces a bunch of growing tips, and they expand irregularly, forming wavy, crazy, mutated shapes. Monstrose cacti are very highly prized, and in fact, this leads into the mutations of cacti where they have no chlorophyll in there, that weird orange or white or yellow or red ball that's on like a normal cactus stem. Those, although admittedly the basic ones you buy at the store, are really gaudy and horrible. Because it's almost like a death sentence for the stem plant, because it has to do all the work, and then this lumpy thing on top just sits there and going, ha, I'm the 1%. Or whatever. They're not great. But when you get something like a monstrous form, and I will do a little video on my one monstrous form cactus, which is main thing. You'll see what I mean. In fact, I may just do a whole thing on that later. But the frilled fan is one that takes a fan shape, and it's sort of wavy and curvy, and really, it's cool looking. Especially if you get a green one. The chlorophyll-free ones are kind of, you're basically buying, they're not going to stay alive for very long, because eventually the stem underneath will try to take over and will win. Because ultimately, if a plant can't make chlorophyll, it's not in the plant's own best interest. But if you get a green one, it'll wobble and wave and go all over the place, and it'll be really cool. The downside is that there is always the probability that the plant will suddenly go, wait, what the heck am I doing? And suddenly start growing normally. And then suddenly all the growing tips stop, and then the normal growth shoots out of it, and you're like, oh, that's weird. Also, there's a chance that only one growing tip out of the dozens that are doing the weird stuff will go normal, or some of them will, or none of them will. It's completely random, and it's totally worth it. But that's what the frilled fan really is. It's actually a mutation of this or the trigona that they stick on something else. Why it's called frilled fan is a nickname for the main plant that doesn't have a mutation? You got me. But anyway, as I mentioned, this plant has toxic sap just like every other member of the Euphorbia family that I've talked about. What's interesting about this is that it is a unique shape. It is a tall, straight cactus that can withstand being in a normal home setting. Not the best choice for pets, but then again, I mean, look at it. It's simple, it's easy, it survives benign neglect. It's an interesting gift because chances are the garden person you're giving it to doesn't already have it. I mean, that's the goal, right? To give them something completely crazy. Something they didn't expect. Instead of that, oh, it's a poinsettia. I'm going to hide your body out back. Anyway, that's why you should get one of these for yourself or your friends. Besides, it's going to have stem cuttings. You're eventually going to give cuttings out. So it's a win for everybody. But that's all we have for this video. I hope you liked this one. I think I'm going to squeeze one more video in this series just for the lols. And if you liked it, hit the subscribe button, hit a like, do the blog thing. As always, folks, keep them growing. Happy holidays. Have a safe new year. And remember, folks, don't spread the COVID. Good day.